Sometimes in pediatrics, unfortunately, a child can be lost. The process of healing is very difficult. How should a parent who unfortunately loses a young child or an old child approach that problem?
It's very difficult, and there are different issues around grieving that parents go through if they have other children when they've lost a child, or just if they've lost their only child. But let's take a situation where they've lost a child and there are other siblings. First, realize that the siblings will go through a process of mourning themselves. Even babies will become fussier and understand that there's something missing. But older children above age 3 may first become hostile and angry and acting out as part of their process of mourning. After that, after several weeks perhaps, or a month, they can go through a process where they'll become withdrawn or sad and continue to talk about the lost sibling. That's very, very typical. And that may go on for weeks and even months. They may fantasize that the child may be coming back, or they also may fantasize that they had something to do with the loss of that sibling, even though they had nothing to do with it. So those are expected kinds of reactions and grief reactions that are normal. So as a parent, how do you deal with those kinds of things? First, try and return to a normal routine as soon as possible. Kids, like adults, need routine. And the more you can do that, the more the child will realize that life is continuing. Second, have conversations, open conversations with the child, especially the over 3-year-old. Acknowledge how we all are sad and we all miss your brother or your sister. Those kinds of feelings that you can express and hear them express are all part of making that process go more smoothly. But it is not short, it is not quick. It will take weeks and maybe even more. Third is engage other people from the family to assist in those support efforts with your child that's left behind. Reassure them that life is going to go on, that they love them very much, and that they are the center of the activity that remains to be going forward. And expect that they will have periods of they're calm again, and then they'll regress, especially around birthdays or other celebrations. Those are all perfectly normal times when they'll really miss the siblings that they've lost. And fourth, be aware that there are some times where there's a need for professional help, where a psychologist or psychiatrist may need to be brought in. When are those times? Those are the times where the mourning process is going for a long period of time, where there's marked withdrawal over months, inability to get back to the normal activity. If they're in school, withdrawal from friends, or disappointing school performance, or crying or outbursts. After a month or two of that, and it's not returning to normal, it's time to get some professional help.
How does a parent, when a child dies, move on?
The other major subject when a child dies is the parent's own mourning process, and it's very, very difficult and hard to chart like a perfect categorical way that it goes, because it's different for every parent. First, there will be an immediate process of first anger, hostility as to why it happened, a sense of going through those stages of mourning that we know so well from the Elizabeth Kubler-Ross processes of mourning. There'll be withdrawal after the anger. There'll be, having had some denial that will go on, they'll gradually move toward a process where they'll get beyond that death. It may take weeks and months. It certainly will take weeks, and probably a better part of a year to get over that. The key there is some of the same steps we talked about with children. Getting back to a normal routine as much as possible. Engaging friends and other family members through that process, realizing that others are going through it as well. Developing ways of paying tribute to the lost child, whether it's their own internal memorial or within schools, or something that says, I remember this child, I always will remember this child. Recognizing special events that take place on those anniversaries are all part. A parent who loses a child never forgets that child. And it's never to be expected that it will ever be out of that person's memory. It just recedes to a background state so that life can continue. Same thing goes for professional help for parents. if in fact you're not able to let go of that, and that you find yourself constantly mulling over that, or feeling guilty about it, or responsible when there was nothing to do with your own negligence, which most of the time is the case. But that continues to sort of be a persistent mental thought in the family, then you may need to get somebody to help you work through those feelings. Generally by a year or so, and it may take that long, things are able to move on to a more even keel, but it may just take that long.
It's probably good to find a group if the kid had a certain disease, and there might be people in the same situations, because the real expert is someone who went through the process before you. Is that true?
They're often very helpful support groups of this, either if they've died of a particular disease that has its own sets of support groups that you can join either online or in an actual face-to-face meeting. All of that is very much helpful to hear other people who went through it or are going through it, so you can share feelings and the same emotions.
A lot of these social websites like MySpace have actually groups, and they have ways that you can say, well, let's make people aware of such a rare condition or whatever it is. And the process helps you to heal a little bit too, doesn't it?
Absolutely. There are specific groups often that have been developed around specific diagnoses of either rare diagnoses or ones that have children who die as a result of them, whether it's the American Heart Association through Pediatric Cardiology, those groups of kids who die of congenital heart disease or the rare metabolic diseases. Take advantage of both the information as well as the kind of support that those families will give you, because their experiences will help you go through your experience.
I thank you very much.
Thank you.